The first feeling I had when I heard that the Rose d'Or was going to honour me in this way was the usual one, I suppose, of oh, that means my career is over. It's a goodbye. It's the equivalent of giving the gold watch to the retiring station master, and that this was thank you and good night. And I thought, well, if that's true, it's still very charming, and if I can do anything to make sure that it isn't too much of a valetudinarian kiss off, then all the better. But quite seriously, it does mean a lot. Since I can remember watching television, the Golden Rose of Montreux and occasionally Lucerne or wherever it might be housed, really meant something, and it has always gone out of its way to recognise a particular kind of television. So if they've honoured me, then I feel exactly that, honoured. Well, at the risk of sounding sententious and kind of over serious and well thinking and all the rest of it, there's no question that where I've most touched audiences, aside from the benefits of touching audiences in comedy, which is very real and long lasting, there's really no question that it's been, I think, particularly in arenas like mental health, to be able to make a documentary charting my own history in mental health, and also interviewing extraordinary people living with the very worst kinds of extreme bipolar disorder in the case of my documentary. That the fact that television allows that, the fact that television could set up an issue like mental health to be a really important issue, and that it has been taken up as an important issue, not because of my programme, but as it were, I think we crested a wave, a very important wave, and I would hate to see the death of the kind of television that really does cause a public discussion and an international, in fact, forum for issues that are extremely important. Having said that, I would also have to say that being part of comedy shows like the Blackadder, for example, that have lasted from generation to generation and still seem to touch people and amuse people is an extraordinary privilege. And I know from my own childhood the extreme gratitude I feel towards the sitcoms and the comedians and entertainers who made my typically muddled and absurd adolescence happier. That it's not a small thing to be thanked for comedy. It never gets big awards, comedy, but it does touch people. Comedy is, well, I suppose I put it this way. Famously, the poet Percy Bysshe Shelley, a radical poet, said that poets are the unacknowledged legislators of society. And I think to some extent, comics are the unacknowledged legislators today. They don't set out to legislate, as it were, to lay down what is or isn't right in a society, but they do find a way of peeling away nonsense and allowing us to examine our own stupidities, or indeed just to share in the glorious absurdity of existence. And I just, from my earliest memories of watching Laurel and Hardy as a child, or then Morecambe and Wise and some of the great American comics and so on, I can't place them high enough in the pantheon of people who've influenced me and delighted me. And whether one wants to talk about great artists, great poets, great philosophers, great essayists, I would put the Marx Brothers and Laurel and Hardy and Morecambe and Wise and Monty Python in as high a place in my particular pantheon. And if television had done nothing else in the 50 years of my active watching of it, then I would thank it for that alone. There are a huge number of award ceremonies in the field, particularly of performance arts, theatre and television and film. Everybody knows the famous ones, and Rose d'Or is one of the famous ones, and it's unique. It's unique because it has a worldwide remit. it's not confined to a particular cultural footprint in one country or another. So I think those of us who've been lucky enough to win Rose d'Ors before, and I have, we went to the ceremony in Switzerland, and we genuinely felt that it was a very special thing to have got this award, partly because television is British television and most European television, not American so much, although we could come to that because obviously a lot of nonsense is talked about American TV. British television is parochial. I mean, it's there, it's by act of parliament to serve British tastes and needs. And I'm not just talking about the BBC. People forget this when you mention act of parliament, and you know, also Channel 4 is under a parliamentary remit, and Channel 5. If you're trying to make television, and I've been in the position where I've been keen to make programmes, the BBC commissioners, ITV commissioners, Channel 4 commissioners very much want there to be a British spin to it, because there's no interest to them in selling the programme abroad. They want it to speak to their British audience, and quite right too. Therefore, television tends to have this feeling that it is for its own audience. Not to mention rights for music and other such things, which it's all very painful to talk about, but are a necessary part of the problem of selling abroad. So when you come to something like the Rose d'Or, and you genuinely feel it's international, you see awards going to Swedish and Luxembourgeois and Italian TV programs, you think, well, this is great. This is the very rare opportunity for different practitioners of different televisual arts to come together and celebrate what they do and to see examples of what they do. And it's a delight. Well, my best memory of going to receive a Rose d'Or was after the event, which was terrific in itself, having quite a few drinks in the bar of the hotel where we were staying afterwards with Ricky Gervais, and suddenly finding myself with a part in what was going to be his new series called Extras. He'd won an award, as he did in almost every landmass on this planet and probably other planets too, for his series The Office, and he was developing this new one going to be called Extras. So I thought, well, this is a very extraordinary example of how the Golden Rose acts together and creates new synergies in television, because that evening in the bar, I got a part in a TV show. So I was very pleased about that. It was very funny. But no, it was wonderful. It was great. It was really, it's exciting. I think, obviously we British people all coalesced in I remember Noel Edmonds was there that particular weekend, and various other British performers, and we all sort of gaped and looked at each other and said, "Are we really here?" And we were so well treated. It felt like a very exciting event. Sometimes European things you worry will be a bit United Nations, a bit sort of bland and sort of just too many speeches and all that sort of thing. But it wasn't like that at all. It was just very, very cheerfully and pleasantly done.